This is Vipperman, and I'm excited to be back in the studio today for the Back in the Bold podcast. Just thrilled today to have guest Daniel Walsh from VeroSkills and to hear a little bit about his story and what's going on after their recent $5 million raise. So lots of exciting things happening, lots of fuel to grow the company, and looking forward to catching up and hearing what's going on. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Vip. This is very exciting. I'm glad we were finally able to corral
it. Yeah. Well, as it turns out, building a company and raising money at the same time is hard work. Hard to get
those. It's a little nutty.
Yeah, man. Well, excited to just kicked off. For those out there listening who are not familiar with VeroSkills yet, and your story, just tell us a little bit about your background. How did you become an entrepreneur, and how did you get to this place today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a quick overview for VeroSkills. What we do at VeroSkills is we use the greatest technology that's kind of come across the line really in the last 100 years with the power of AI to help more people get into the workforce that would have never been able to before. So, what an army of recruiters and an army of HR people can't do, our AI can do and can help them get into a phenomenal job. And it's coming at such a critical time because blue collar America, for every 5 people that retire, only 2 are replacing them. And so,
oh wow, I didn't know that stat.
Yeah, it's a really a big crisis that's just been accelerating every year. So we use technology to really do what staffing and recruiting firms can't do to solve the problem for blue collar America's workforce, and we feel that. But my background, I got my start at 16 building iPhone apps for the App Store, and
okay. That's pretty early.
Yeah, it was, it just, I had a lot of extra time on my hands. I was homeschooled, so I could, probably do a little bit more than most kids could do. And so, built an app, put it out on the App Store, thought it was going to be a huge deal, got like 60 downloads, and it was a free app. And so I was like, okay, maybe this isn't, maybe technology isn't a career for me. But then a company contacted me and they said, hey, we want to pay you $20,000 to build an app for our company. And
oh my!
Like crazy, at 16, I was like, is it even? Am I even legally allowed to accept $20,000?
Yeah.
So like I didn't know. I was worried. So did that. And my dad actually, it was crazy. My dad was the one that got the check in the mail because it came to our home address.
So you did do it. You built the app.
Built this
set
app,
them up,
put it out on the App Store. But that first check came in the mail, and my dad's check in the mail. I'll never forget. He comes in, and he's holding the check, and he's like, "Daniel, we need to talk." And I'm like, oh man, what did I do? I'm trying to think through all the things, and he puts the check forward, and he's like, "What's going on? What is this? What have you done?"
So they had no idea.
Oh no, yeah, they had no idea. They knew I did stuff, kind of, built different things with technology. But they had no clue what that meant, what that was turning into. And I think, quite honestly, at first they probably thought it was like drug money or something, like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it took a little explaining, but then they finally got it. But that kind of kicked off my entrepreneurial career. Just started building things, and then kind of led me to my last company, which was a coding bootcamp that ended up being a top 5 nationally ranked coding bootcamp. We trained thousands of software engineers, placed them in jobs all over. And for me, like, the big moment was just seeing that there were so many people, tens of millions of people, that just didn't have access to opportunity, and were never able to get ahead. it just seemed like you kind of get caught in that cycle of kind of just accepting the work you can get and not going after the jobs or the career or the work you want. And, in the coding bootcamp space, saw that especially to be true because, it's an expensive program. Only select people could kind of come through and afford it. And so it made me want to do something that was more inclusive of the entire workforce and being able to help people get into a job where they're flourishing and moving ahead and kind of having that American dream. And I knew it was possible with technology. Didn't know quite how when I started the company, but knew that we can figure this out. Surely, where we can move people into a better job and a better future, and allow them to flourish.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about that first company, like the name of the company, how much you guys were charging for, like, because I know like college these days can cost like $100,000, for 4 years, right? Like easily can cost that much for 4 years. And you guys, I mean, so even compared to that, you guys were still rather inexpensive, I would guess, but still that number that you guys were charging being too high for those blue collar folks that need it the most. So, but tell us a little bit about that business model.
Yeah, so the first company, we were very much a coding bootcamp company. So we would charge, I think our pricing was anywhere from 10 to 15,000 that somebody would pay, and they would kind of come through a 10 to 12 week program, and then come out on the other side with these software engineering skills where they could then land a job making anywhere at the time 60 to 100,000 a year.
So, I mean, relatively reasonable. Like if you can afford the upfront cost, then great opportunity to get placed somewhere. And again, 10 to 15,000 versus college, which is $100,000 or more.
It was definitely a disruptor. It was a disruptor. And that's what, initially, that's what got me into the coding bootcamp kind of industry and doing that company was like this idea that we can kind of democratize education and kind of take down the typical barriers.
Well, I was just saying, if you were 16 years old and able to make $20,000 on a project, like, there's other people out there that want to be able to have these kind of skills and have the ability to learn how to do these things.
Definitely.
Yeah, at that time, were people sitting in a classroom like 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday? Were they coming in person? This is like pre-COVID kind of time.
Yeah, pre-COVID. So we had 3 offices across the state of Alabama, and then an online program as well. So, it was actually during COVID that our online program really just went into hyperspeed because, kind of forced us to be 10x better at doing online than we ever were. And then it was such a time where people were being laid off from, their retail jobs or their warehouse or factory jobs, and they're like, I'm at home, I have all this time, what do I do? And so I think we were able to have 600 students come through just in 2020 alone, which was which is a record year for us than any other year we previously. But the thing that was such a gut punch, even though that was like an exciting, great moment, was there was like 19,500 people that weren't able to get in and weren't able to take advantage. And that kind of was like the thing that was showing me like, hey, there is still, even though we're taking down the barriers 10 to 15,000, you're kind of opening the doors to a lot more people. But it's essentially, you still have to kind of be able to buy a car, right, to be able to come through. You got to have financing, or you got to have the funding from a relative or yourself sitting there to be able to take advantage of it. And still, even though we maybe opened the doors for, 10 to 15, 20% more people, still, the vast majority wasn't wasn't able to kind of take advantage of it. And so that was
so you had to say no to 20,000 people.
Yeah. And it was a gut punch because these were probably some of the best students, would have been placed quickly, like they would have done great in the program. They just didn't have $15,000, to spend. And, for me, it was like, how do we figure out how to meet people where they are? How do we bridge that? Because that was like, for me, it didn't sit well with me. I thought like, hey, I'm going to spend, building a company is essentially you're spending the best years of your life, right? Building something. And you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into building something that's going to leave a mark on the world. And so the way I kind of thought about it was, okay, I can kind of have this impact right here. And that helps some great people and some people flourish. Or I can really actually focus on the much bigger problem that there is so many people that need to have a better opportunity, a better career, a better job that can make a difference in their life. And that's ultimately made me want to start VeroSkills, is just like, is how big of an impact am I going to have focusing on this kind of narrow slice of people?
Wow. So you see this problem, like, hey, lots of people need jobs. They're not necessarily qualified for the job that they would like to be able to get. Most of the people could really use making more money to take care of their family, to have, a better lifestyle, that sort of thing. And yet they really don't have a solution. So they're stuck in this cycle and they can never get out of it. And so that's the problem that you guys see. So what did you do? You took the knowledge and the experience that you learned from the previous, like the bootcamp coding company, and you flip it into VeroSkills. What's the moment that you're like, okay, we can make this switch and it's game time. Let's go.
Yeah, I would love to say the idea was fully baked, at the beginning. That would have been, it would have been so nice, it would have saved so much pain and suffering. But the reality was, the kind of initial idea was like, okay, how do we figure out how to make something that's very affordable for people to be able to upskill? And so we initially thought like, okay, we're going to focus on upskilling people's skill set, and the pricing is going to be really affordable. And then we'll be able to move, people into a better career and a better future. So that was like iteration one. And then, we started, we kind of came up with the first idea of that. I raised a little bit of money from friends and family, like $145,000, just to kind of get it going. And got the initial idea off. And then I was going out to market to actually raise our first institutional funding, and pitched Wade from Eagle. And Wade was like, hey, Daniel, what if the people didn't have to pay anything at all? Like, what if they were able to come through? What if what you did actually served the end user by making it entirely monetized on the other end, on the employer's side? And that was like, oh my goodness moment, what if I made it, oh wow, that's really smart. Of course, I've been thinking that all along type thing, but Wade was so instrumental in helping me kind of see hey, this is clearly the right direction.
Well, because you always have to, you just would compress and compress and press the price down to make it affordable for the person, which takes away eventually all of your profit. It just makes it hard. And so you can't serve as many people, but by flipping the mold, the opportunity expands pretty significantly. So were companies, did they welcome that switch? Because now you're saying, hey, before I was getting these people to pay and I'm going to send them to you. Now you're saying, hey, you're going to pay for me to train this person. Were they okay with that?
So it was, that was iteration 2 of the business model. There's probably been like 5 now. So
Okay.
we're on 5, and I think 5 is the one. But, iteration 2 was like, hey, listen, okay, we're going to find the companies or the organizations that will pay for the people to be trained. So initially, we actually said, okay, who are the people that care the most about serving these communities? And it was initially nonprofits. So we started selling nonprofits, and we were able to scale the company to a decent level through that model. So I think we ended up growing that business around 2.2 million in ARR off of nonprofit organizations paying us to kind of upskill the people to get the skills, and the candidates pay nothing. And so
they were upskilling people that the nonprofits were serving?
That's right, in their communities. Okay. So
gotcha.
It's like a nonprofit would serve a refugee community or an inner city at-risk youth, or women that have gone through difficult backgrounds. So all different kinds of nonprofits we worked with, and it was really good. That model was really a successful kind of thing from the candidate. I believe we upskilled in total about almost 3,000 people came through that and kind of got trained and got into really great jobs. But we kind of realized as well that model had its limits as well. So, there's only a certain amount of nonprofits that have the budget, the funding, and the ability. And one thing we saw while we were upskilling these communities was the individuals we were upskilling would actually take these like tech skills they were learning and like all of these higher end skills, and then take that to get a better blue collar job. And that was a fascinating discovery for us, because we were like, wait a minute. They're able to take like this training, this upskilling, and they're able to get into a job, but it's not the jobs we're kind of like matching them initially for. It's these jobs that they're actually able to receive and they're able to move up. So, they might work in a factory. They started on the assembly line. Now, from the training help, they were able to get a job as a CNC machinist. And so,
so it gave them confidence, it gave them a job skill, but it wasn't quite helping them to go from blue collar to say white collar opportunities or something.
That's
like that.
Right. But and we kind of realized, like, where we are going to be able to help people the most is serving them where the jobs they're going to be able to get into are, and then helping them to be able to climb in those careers. And so being able to get them a good blue collar job, but then helping them to evolve. And the cool thing is with technology, like, we essentially say, hey, we're like, our AI can do what no recruiter on earth can do, right? We're looking at millions of parameters that make a candidate unique in their skill set to match them with a great employer, things that would never show up on a resume. So like, hey, I used to work doing this kind of work, and we would occasionally, do this kind of construction work and these kind of projects. And that might make them a really good candidate for a blue collar job, but because it's not on their resume as they work this kind of construction position, they're not going to actually be able to get that better job. And so, the average recruiter today spends 6 seconds looking at a resume. And then and that's the long version. Usually, it's a couple seconds shorter, but 6 seconds is your average. And then if they like what they see in 6 seconds, they're going to call you and do a 5 to 15 minute gut check kind of phone call before they kind of send you off to interview and kind of be screened. What our technology does is we have a candidate come through the stack. It looks at all of their skills, all of their background, all of their credentials. Then it puts them on a interview with our AI that can interview them in any language that they're looking or that they're speaking, any background, and it pulls out the nuance that is in their background and in their experience that might make them a better candidate for 50 other jobs that they don't have on their resume, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, and then if they get past that, then it automatically background checks them. It automatically can send them off to doing a drug test. And it can literally have somebody show up at somebody's door without a human being ever being in the touch, in that loop.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's giving a candidate that is far and above a much better candidate than any recruiter could ever find for you.
Yeah.
Which is the power. So I think we hear every news headline is AI is taking our jobs. AI is going to, take away half of the world's jobs in the next 10 years. Everybody's kind of leaned into this doomsday scenario. But the truth is AI is a technology that is doing the thing we craft it to do, right? And if our technology that we build is, hey, AI is not going to take away your job. AI is actually going to give you the best job you ever had.
Dude,
right?
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really
what
cool.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you still upskilling people? All that training, all that work to get people coding training and then other training, are y'all still doing that piece as well? Or have you found the real sweet spot is just that job matching piece is even more important?
Well, what we do is first we realize our most important thing is to get them into a job first. Get them to where they're working, you're in a job, it's a good job, you're being paid a fair wage, you have good benefits. We actually act as the employer of record. So the platform hires the candidate through our platform and they fall onto our payroll as the employer of record through our platform. And what that allows us to do is then be in control of the educational benefits in the path that they have. And so what we do is we get them into a job in blue collar, and then we say, okay, you're starting as a general laborer, right? Maybe at a plumbing company. But we all know that your best outcome is you want to move up to an apprentice, you want to move up to a journeyman plumber, and eventually you want to be making $100,000 a year as a master plumber. We're going to train you. We're going to give you the educational training on our platform to be able to then apply that and go through those tests and start that journey in the role you're in today. So you might be starting as a general laborer, but the 2-year plan through our platform is you're going to move up to become a master plumber. And we're giving you everything you need to do at no cost, right? Because our benefits are aligned, right? Our impact metric for the person is actually aligned with the business profit and margin because they're working through our platform. If that individual in 2 years is now making $55 an hour instead of $20 an hour, guess what? We're making more money off of that relationship of employing that person on that job site.
Okay, nice.
And
so you guys, are they getting an email from you guys once a week and then kind of logging in to watch some content? How does the training take place? They put on a VR headset?
Yeah. So how it works is essentially from the very moment they get placed on a job, they onboard into our platform. They go through some initial training that kind of shows them how our platform works. We have a mobile version of our platform and then a web version, and we have over 900 courses on our platform. So they go on, they have all kinds of video libraries that they can go through. They can actually interact with tutors that can help them explaining different things. But they go on to our platform from either their phone, they might be on the job site and they might have a question about something, so they can be on their phone at the job site, or they can be online at night saying, okay, I'm studying for this journeyman test. I'm going to go on the VeroSkills platform and kind of go through this training to help me level up. So they can access it 24/7 from their phone or their computer and get the training and skilling they need to move up at no cost.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. So are you still have the coding training built in? Are there people that are doing coding, or the majority of the focus has changed into, different types of positions?
Yeah, we've actually completely moved away from the coding training because we helped several thousand people get into better jobs on the coding side of things, and it was a good thing. But what we saw was we are going to be able to help the vast majority of people that interact through our platform move into a job that they are making six figures in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
And we're able to start. The difference with the coding training with us initially was we had to do all this initial training just to get them into a job.
Yeah.
And the difference today is on day one, we're getting you in a job, and then we're starting this training journey.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, so honestly, at this point, I mean, the sky's the limit for you guys as far as, as soon as a person gets in, you guys can get them like immediately into opportunities.
Yes. It's literally within 48 hours of the person first interacting with our platform, we have them on a job site working for a company.
Oh my word. So initially it was, you guys have trained a few thousand people. Where are you guys at number-wise now?
Yeah, so I think the metric that we are looking at today is 1,000 new people a day are coming into the platform and starting their journey with us.
1,000 a day?
1,000 a day.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, you could have as many as 30,000 people in a month get new placements.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not everybody. Like, is there a percentage that y'all are tracking there?
Yeah. So of the 1,000 that come through, not all of them are going to be, obviously a match to be able to get with the company and kind of start the journey today. But what they will do is they will stay in our platform for when we do have an opportunity that matches with them.
Matches there. Yeah.
That's right. So we're dealing with hundreds a week that we're trying to fill. So to get placed. So if it's 1,000 a day, we're looking at kind of a few hundred opportunities that we help people kind of fill into.
But if you have 10% of people that are applying to your platform get jobs, I mean, all you do is continue to ratchet that up, and it just, the scale is tremendous. So what's the limiting factor now? Is it the people coming in? Is it the companies that are, hiring you guys to find qualified workers?
So we've learned a lot. So I think that what we realized initially, we thought like, hey, large enterprise is actually, this is going to be where we think large manufacturing plants in blue collar or hotel brands, hospitality, this is maybe large construction projects. This is where we're going to focus. And that's what we went after initially. What we found actually was our technology moves so fast that we're actually able to help a demographic of customers that have never historically able to be served by staffing and recruiting firms. And that is the millions of blue collar service based SMBs, SMB companies, small businesses that are anywhere from 5 to 50 employees. So my dad was a plumber for 48 years. And, his biggest problem was he was never able to find good talent. He was never able to retain good talent. So, what we're able to do is we're able to bring people in days, not months, and they're able to be the best hires these companies have ever made. And then we're taking care of all the liabilities, payroll, taxes, benefits, all educational training. All of that is through our platform. So it makes it incredibly easy.
Yeah.
For these awesome. Individuals. Yeah. So
that's really cool. Well, I was just, tell me a story. Do you guys have like a story of a person or one or two stories where it's like, take us from, we can serve tens of thousands of people this year and help, thousands get jobs to, hey, let me tell you about one or two that we've gotten to walk through the process with, and here's a little bit about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm thinking of just some recent examples. We had a gentleman by the name of Bert who interacted with our platform. So he kind of started the top of funnel recruitment process and then was interviewed, background checked, all the different things. We can even do drug testing without ever a person being involved in that process. So they go through all of that. He had been looking for a job for, I think, something like 6 months, a long time, and just not able to, because his background was not like, a perfect match on paper with what employers were just posting out there. And so what we were able to do is, from the very first start of him interacting with our platform to being placed in a really good plumbing position where I believe he was making $30 an hour. So really good job. 3 days, he was on the job site. He was working. He was making some of the best money he's ever made in his entire life.
Yeah.
And he had been looking for 6 months. And he literally was like, guys, you have changed my life. Thank you so much. I've never dealt with a process that I've been able to be all the way onboarded on the payroll, and I'm clocking hours and I'm making money in 3 days.
Right.
So, that's the benefit. We're able to move at a speed that, that helps people so fast and helps the companies to be able to really benefit.
That's amazing. Dude, so thankful. Well, talk to me a little bit about what you see the future looking like. Like, if now that you guys have just gone through this process of raising the money, where's the money going to? And then what's kind of that future that you guys are preparing for?
So we just finished raising $5.3 million in funding. What we are excited about is we want, there's 40 staffing and recruiting firms in the U.S. that serve blue collar America that do over $1 billion in annualized revenue.
Wow.
But not a single one serves the millions of blue collar service-based SMBs. Not one of them. Because what we do with technology, they do with an army of recruiters and HR people. And so our future is, this is a $364 billion TAM that exists in the United States alone, right? So we want to become the biggest staffing recruiting firm in the world in a very short amount of time by serving a market that's never been able to be served. And I think what that means for the world and what that means for impact is, by 2030, we want to transform 100 million people's lives by giving them a better job.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a big goal,
Thank
my
you.
friend. That's a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's really, really fun. Well, talk to me a little bit about the culture. One of the things, you guys have pivoted a couple times. You've
Yes.
obviously built a couple different companies. So tell me about, and you guys are obviously going to be, hiring and growing yourselves, as you serve, more people. So tell me a little bit about your culture at the company and how you're keeping it kind of alive and thriving.
Yeah, I think there's a few core things that are really important to us. So, I think speed is something that we value, and put a big value on. Is so, a lot of people think, in startups, you kind of have to. You kind of have to look at your team as almost like a family dynamic, right? Where you're like inviting people you like and get along with, and it's kind of like, you hope to, have 10 years with them. But for us, we're building the most intense Olympic sports team that's ever been assembled. And so our mission is to find people that are going to move faster than anybody else will move, and will perform better than anybody else will perform. And then, I would say the ultimate thing that matters to those people is not the money or the the success that we're getting from that, but it's the lives and the difference that we're making in the world. And if those three things are kind of our most critical thing, and it's an intensity. So, this is a sport. Startups is, I would say, one of the most intense sports you can pick, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's an all-on 24/7, 365 sport. And for us, that means we're all in person, right? We're working in person every single day together, and we're making sure we're all aligned. A lot of startups, I think, have this view that like you be remote and you can kind of get things done, and I mean, I'm sorry, maybe somebody else is able to do it that isn't me much better, and I'm sure there are, but I think startups are all about evening your odds. And, giving yourself just a little bit more margin, and by being able to move faster, think more creatively, and do things is such an edge that you just otherwise don't have. So
if you got the people together, then you can, make quick pivots and do what needs to be done. And you can inspire one another. Are you the kind of guys that have the gong that you bang when somebody gets a new job?
We totally are. Yeah. Yeah, we're into all those gimmicky things,
Nice.
Gongs, air horns, all those kind of things. So
Nice.
it's ultimately, it's like, we're trying to create something that it creates a movement that leaves a mark on the world. And so I think being fired up for that shared goal and doing it together, I think that's just like, it's so important. And it's a hard game, right? There's most days you're not winning in a startup, so being able to like carry that and work fast, that's very important to us.
Cool. Get some velocity. Well, one of the other things, you'd mentioned before, I mean, obviously job creation in the first place is a super big deal. But I remember you talking early on that you had a real big passion for refugees, that you guys had also sought to help like survivors of trafficking get jobs and other kind of things, maybe even, returning citizens. But have y'all seen like some of those different pockets of just vulnerable people be able to leverage y'all's system as well?
Yeah, I would say that's the coolest part of what we are doing, is we are able to bring in, because of how our technology, it's not biased, it's not looking at all the perfect experience, like it's looking at so many other factors factors other than a perfect resume to bring a candidate into an amazing job. We are serving people that have never been able to be served in the workforce, by staffing and recruiting. So we have helped thousands of immigrants and refugees get into amazing jobs. We've helped victims of trafficking and people that literally their first job post trafficking was, because we helped them get into a better opportunity that's, their resume didn't really fit the profile for.
Right.
And that's what inspires us is like we're moving people into the workforce that today by the kind of standard means are not being served.
Yeah.
And like we've seen like, people that are, formerly incarcerated, people that come from some really rough backgrounds that just need a chance, just need an opportunity, just need, dignity in the work they're doing. Those people are being served.
So cool. And I love that you're not doing it necessarily. It's like, it's not a government entity. Like it's not this is like dependent on the government. It's not even a nonprofit, which we do know a lot of great nonprofits that serve in the sector, but you guys have figured out a for-profit scalable solution. And that's just thrilling. So tell me a little bit, if there's a listener out there and they're like, either they're a business that's like, man, I would really like to hire, more very qualified employees, and at a reasonable price. How do I do that? Help me on that side, and then help me with if I'm a person out there who's happened to has listened to the podcast or somebody shared it with me, and I just need a job. I've been looking for 6 months to a year, and I haven't found that right spot yet, where I can both get a job and then get upskilled to get something better. So solicit a little bit, if you would, please.
I'll do the infomercial now. So the cool thing is both journeys kind of start at our website. So VeroSkills.com. And, from an employer side, if you want the top 1% of blue collar talent that might not, be compiled from the average list of resumes, because our technology can look at millions of different factors that make up an amazing candidate, we can do that, and then we can send them to you in 48 hours where they're billing and ready and working, right? And they're a dream. And then from the candidate side, going to VeroSkills.com and then clicking on our candidate section, employers click on the employer section and candidates on the candidate section. Do you want to potentially be in the best job you've ever had 3 to 4 days from now? And then be on, not just in a job, but on a journey that is going to move you into a phenomenal career that brings dignity into the work that you do and puts you on a path where you're actually able to experience the American dream a lot of people talk about.
Cool. Well, one last question, because it made me think, you mentioned Alabama before. You guys are based there in Alabama, but is this product available? Like, can employers or potential employees apply from anywhere in the U.S. at this point?
Yeah, so we're in literally all 50 states. We just yesterday we placed somebody in Hawaii. So
okay,
it's all over. It's all 50 states. It doesn't matter. We're not outside the U.S. yet, but all 50 states in the U.S. from a candidate and an employer side. And we can literally do it anywhere that the need is.
Awesome. Well, hey, Daniel, excited to see the growth and success of the company. So fun to see your journey over the last few years and just follow like the rise of you as a founder and just the company as well. And just excited for where you guys are going. So thanks so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. Excited and eagle to back another bold entrepreneur.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.